Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Sound Off with Kevin Williams. Kevin. It's only like the 116th time I've said that. And this is for April 7th, 2026. And Kevin, how are you doing?
I am doing fine. As we record this, we have just survived April the 1st, and I would like to point out that there are no April Fool's jokes in any of our coverage.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, let's start with figuring out how you're going to change my mind this time.
Well, we're at that point where we need to embrace the brand new entertainment genre. I've been charting now the installation of illuminated interactive floor systems across the market. They have seen an explosion of adoption from really three key providers or manufacturers, though there are lots of Chinese knockoffs. And I feel that we need to have that laser quest or laser tag moment where we realize that rather than this just being another entertainment unit that we stick in the corner, that we are dealing with a dedicated attraction that the public enjoys watching others play, and offers a compelling and maybe a higher price point than some operators are actually rolling it out at.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is definitely something that we need to be paying. Let me back up. I think that there's going to be some consolidation, especially when it comes to this type of active floor, pixel floor, etc., whatever we want to, without using any particular brand. The active flooring, play floor, illuminated floor, whatever we want to call it. There's going to be some consolidation.
Illuminated interactive floor games.
There we go. All right, perfect. And I think there'll be some consolidation, and you have to be very careful in selecting which vendor you're going to go forward with, based on some of those moves and where you think some consolidation might happen.
The consolidation seems to be breaking down into, number one, which products are reliable, because this is a high wear, high game environment, which ones have the right kind of content available. We're going to be going through a transition, and we'll be talking about this later in this sound off, about the next generation of interactive illuminated floor systems, as well as wall systems, and the real crux here, which is the enclosure. And I know our friends at Pixel Games was pushing very heavily at AEI, their new metal total enclosure for their systems, rather than just dropping the floor in and hoping that the public will stay away. I feel that we need to come up with a much better middle ground of what the arenas are going to be like to put these in. The same way that we've gone through what are the arenas needed for the VR free roaming experiences, the same way that we originally went through what are the arenas like for laser tag.
Yeah. All right. Well, coming up after the quick break, we'll dive into the economy trends. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Thank you. And jumping into the economical enjoyments that we're going through at the moment, and as we touched upon a couple of sound-offs with the commencement of the conflict in the Middle East, we are now seeing the beginnings of some of the ripples that many of us were expecting to hear about. This is not a surprise. NEOM has been on the ropes as a concept. The line, the original mega city that was going to stretch multiple miles across the desert, had broken ground, and that was it during a investment phase, and then suddenly everything came to a crashing halt. But it is now the announcement that the ski resort, facility, the ambitious ski resort facility, has now seen that its steel and concrete development team pull out, as well as the architectural team pull out, to hear about some of the other leisure entertainment components that surrounded the whole concept of NEOM have also been suspended. This is a good time to bury bad news, and it seems that the Saudi ministry are using this period to close down the ambition of NEOM and refocus on what their business model needs to be going forwards in the changed international environment.
Yeah, nothing like a international crisis to announce the cancellation of some of these big things that were on the ropes anyway.
Most media services who received largesse from the NEOM investment team will obviously just push this to the back and claim that they had other things to talk about rather than this. But for those of us that keep an eye on the Middle East leisure and entertainment sector, the loss of these projects will have ripples across other projects that are either in development or consideration. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear a slowing down of the Disney project, for example.
Yes, indeed.
Moving on to the biz, and it's been crowded. It must be something about March Madness that has got everybody jumping around. Well, finally, the postponement of the sea event was confirmed. So from the promises of May to jumping to now an August. So this is a real postponement rather than a cancellation that our friends at IALPA went through. Let's hope that August brings better winds for their event.
I understand they're probably under different contracts and things in their facilities, or for their venue. But I don't have a lot of high hopes for an August, event either.
I think we will hear news around July time regarding this operation and plans for events and even possibly relocations under a combined show. But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. There's a lot of rumors flowing around about how to redress the need to support the entertainment market. For all we say about international travel and the problems in the Middle East, there's still the local community there that needs to be served, and they will still need to purchase product, and not all of them are going to be able to jump on a plane and come to IALPA Europe or IALPA Orlando. So a regional show serves a very strong importance. It's just how to get it to work cost effectively is the issue going forward. The big one. So our lovely friends at Dave & Buster's finally released their latest numbers, and there's only so much lipstick you can put on a pig. And the key issues were we saw declines. We saw a decline in revenue, and we saw a decline in same-store sales. And the new incumbent CEO did the best job he could do during the investor call and during the written statements for the report, stating that the 5% decline in same-store sales was mainly due to bad weather, and that he is working on a brand new back-to-basics strategy, which seems to gain meaningful traction. Well, we're happy that he's happy. But the realities are that the financial markets have placed their investment and their ratings of their shares on hold. Now, I know that that is a neutral position rather than sell, but it's a neutral position where no actions will be taken until they see the writing on the wall in a couple of months' time, when we have the next financial reportings that will include some of the 2026 number. And this is really where we're wondering how this strategy, this back to basics strategy is going to generate those bums on seats and those beers in bellies that is needed to bring Dave & Buster's back to a successful position in the entertainment market. And part of that is going to be generated by a strategy of returning to the one thing that the previous management didn't seem to care much about, which is games. They're now talking about having 10 new games exclusive to Dave & Buster's, under-timed exclusives, appearing in their facilities over the next 12 months. We're already beginning to see the start of that process. We have the human crane machine, which is a unique entertainment experience to Dave & Buster's-ish. There are other venues that now have the human-powered entertainment, but Dave & Buster's is trying to make it their own. They have just signed and started to install the John Wick's game from our friends at Blue Motion Games that we were reporting on in our AE coverage. And sources confirmed that there is a Stranger Things game from a well-known manufacturer, I can't pass that embargo yet, that will be rolling out. These are exclusives under time limits. Dave & Buster's gets these games for 60 days or longer under exclusive. No one else can have them until the end of that exclusivity, and then everybody can jump on the bandwagon. But it is this hope of using film IP from Lionsgate and streaming IP from Netflix that will guarantee at least the initial return of punters to their entertainment facility. Brandon?
Well, look, I mean, I appreciate the back to basics focus on games. I mean, that's what Dave & Buster's has been, has done, along with sports. I think sports viewing, being a sports bar with mediocre food, has been a key part of the Dave & Buster's brand as well. But I think two thoughts. One, to blame the decline in revenue on weather. I would say, how do you know what the weather is if your head is in the sand? And and so at 177 stores and counting, which I think is even more than that now. It's as of late last year. Then you can't blame weather on 177 stores' poor performance. That being said, look, I appreciate that they're trying to focus on bringing new games, exclusive games back in. I think it's going to come down to marketing those games. And really making sure the word gets out that you have John Wick and Stranger Things, etc., and these larger brands and the human crane. That's one of the things they did really poorly, was marketing and rebranding their social bays. And so, they threw the baby out with the bathwater without warming up the bathwater in the first place to try to mix metaphors, and getting people in and trying it out. I always struggle and cringe a bit when there's too much reliance on IP to bring people in the door. Hopefully the gameplay, and we've already know a little bit about the John Wick experience or the John Wick game, but hopefully the Stranger Things game will be, you're not going to get the repeat play if the gameplay isn't good itself. So it doesn't matter what kind of IP you throw on something, you've got to have a good game and a good experience that's going to drive repeat visitation and repeat play to drive up that per cap. And hopefully this works for them, but I do question whether or not grabbing a bunch of IP is going to do the trick.
I'm sure the team at Netflix House will say thank you very much for proving the validity of the Stranger Things IP for us. And I would advise the C-suite at Dave & Buster's that maybe Netflix IP may become less and less scarce or more and more scarce to them.
More scarce, yeah.
Yes, as the bigger machine enters the market. Let's be clear. There are 243 facilities out there. Not all of them are Dave & Buster's. We also need to include our lovely friends, the 63 selection of main event products that are part of that mix. And again, we have a investor statement that has the mention of main event only once in the statement, and it was only mentioned briefly regarding the number of updated facilities that Dave & Buster's has been going through. One day, the truth will get out about the same store sales that are being achieved by Main Event, let alone what is being achieved by Dave & Buster's. And I have an awful feeling that there'll be a lot of red face. I keep on wanting to see that McDonald's moment. I want to see the new C-suite of Dave & Buster's actually playing the games that they are.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see them eat one of their chicken wing selections or one of their burgers and keep a straight face. These are the things where it's nice to hide in the lofty towers of the C-suite, but when the investors aren't happy, you're going to have to get down in the trenches and play a game and eat a burger. One that snuck through a couple of hours ago while compiling this. But the rumors on the street are that Disney is actively looking to invest in acquiring Epic Games. This is part of my transmedia bullywig. This will allow Disney, who has the reverse Midas touch when it comes to touching game development studios, to grab another game development studio and bring it, well, game publisher studio, and bring it under its fold. Obviously, this is being done for the Fortnite acquisition, and the Disney board felt very strongly that they had success with their Disney investment into the IP addition into Fortnite. I would also point to the new CEO, so new president CEO of Disney, is a alleged gamer. Hello, fellow kids, and we are really seeing Disney looking at positioning itself against what it is seeing from our friends at Netflix and Apple and others in the streaming war of having to have an interactive entertainment component to your streaming positioning. Currently, Epic's Games is valued at about $22 billion. Disney has access to that type of money, though it would have to, go into Mickey's pantsuit and pull out some small change. This would be a Iger-esque kind of move. I feel that it is not the best time to start buying consumer video game companies, as we've seen our friends at Epic Games already dump 1,000 members of staff as they restructure themselves. This may be a ballsy move for the long term of Disney, or this may be another 20th Century Fox kind of stumble.
Yeah, maybe. So I feel a little bit more bullish on this than potentially a Fox acquisition, primarily because one, they've had a great partnership already with the launch of their Disney experience on Fortnite. Basically their own world.
Which they paid for.
Yeah, they did, right? And they have lots of their IP loaded in as skins inside of Fortnite as well. But I think what's really interesting is this gives them some real chops on the video game development front, and something that they have lacked for a while. And even more interestingly here, which is a little bit different than just buying a pure game developer, is that they would also be getting, presumably anyway, if they're buying the full Epic Games set of assets, is they get Unreal Engine. And Unreal Engine is right now one of the most popular game development tools out there for both game development and also even high-end VR and AR and other experiences, are using Unreal Engine to develop their experiences as well, not just video games. And right now, at least according to some of the quick research I did here, 28% of the games released in 2024 were using Unreal Engine, and so I think that's acquiring a platform in addition to a game development studio, in addition to one of the most popular games on the planet, is potentially not a bad move for Disney for their transmedia efforts.
For their transmedia efforts, they buy a metaverse. This is the thing that
Yes.
Mark Zuckerberg would have loved to have had. Fortnite was always held up as an example of a kind of metaverse approach.
Yep.
You've touched upon the biggest cherry in this deal, which is a development studio capability to have the tools and to be a leading tool. It gives them a seat at the video game table right at the top, and also would allow them to pressurize Apple through the Epic Games legal statutes that are going on at the moment. I would argue, though, that Disney claiming that they haven't been in the video game sector before is kind of like the kid that's murdered its parents and then starts complaining about being an orphan. Disney had Lucas Games, Disney had Disney Game Studio, and they murdered them because of C-suite meddling and an inability of top management to understand what the fellow kids wanted to play. This would be a very crucial moment for them. If Disney did a Star Wars on Epic Games, then I think every investor would burn down the ranch. But we will have to wait and see if this even becomes a thing, because rumors do not butter many parsnips. Our Genda moment, and we are really looking at the explosion of Genda's Geigo empire. Their opening of their first Shanghai, China facility, bringing the Geigo model, the coloring, the branding, as well as the DX AI-supported player engagement approach. This is a highly automated and well-run machine now, and it is starting to appear in China. The world domination tour continues.
Yeah. Period. Also, by the way, I don't know the last time you've buttered a parsnip, but I know I certainly have not buttered a parsnip recently. But yeah, sorry.
If you want to get them succulent for your Christmas deal, you do have to butter them, or even better, lard. I'm a lard fan on that. It is an old English expression, though, buttering parsnips.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry to show my age. You've got 5.8 million burning a hole in your pocket, and Texas looks like a great place to open up a competitive socializing venue. Hey, you just open a Pop Strokes, and we have the latest Pop Strokes opening, big brands, outdoor entertainment facility, and part of a 22 chain. And the great thing is you're supported by a really leading character in the golfing area. So you've got it all. You've got a brand that is supported by
Yeah.
Well, you had a brand supported by Tiger Woods, but yet again, he found out that bottle and steering wheel doesn't work well. Luckily, and I always say this, luckily no one was injured other than his ego in this latest DUI. And this seems to have been the latest straw to break the latest Tiger Woods back. He has now stated that he will be removing himself from all of his brands and properties and sporting engagements while he goes off to seek help for his obvious problem. That kind of hurts Pop Strokes. Every time now you mention Pop Strokes, you used to mention the Tiger Woods involvement. And this is a perfect example of why having a celebrity rather than a mascot is much easier to manage, especially a celebrity that had quite a incendiary history. Even though poor old Chuck E. Cheese was seen frog marched in handcuffs out of a store, on general, your mascot doesn't usually go for a drink and a drive or get involved in other criminal escapades. It is important to understand that Pop Strokes is going to have to rebrand itself quite considerably now based upon what it's experiencing with this current situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true, to the point that you see here even right on their pylons and along the courses. It's the Tiger Red course. There's a Tiger Blue course. He is deeply, his brand is deeply infused in and
And
around.
if you go into
each
the
one of these
parking
locations.
lots, there's the Tiger Woods parking bay right next door to the bar. Oops, sorry, only joking.
There isn't that, but there are Tiger Woods quotes embedded
Everywhere.
into the concrete and in other places throughout the facility. So this will definitely be something that the the PopStroke developers are going to have to really strongly consider as as he's working through these issues.
We feel for him. First time we were unhappy and appalled and wished him strength. The second time we're worried that he's not getting the right help from those around him or the right structure. Either way, we're not here to judge the man, we're here to judge the brand. And if you're PopStrokes, you're going to have to make a serious decision. Do you stand by your tiger, swallow it, carry on, and know that his history of golfing excellence will never be expunged as long as he doesn't overdo the incidences and he can come out of this a better individual? Or do you just do what many brands have done and slowly ease away from the core sports person and just focus upon the experience that you're offering? It won't be the first time that we've seen this. Moving on, and we've been talking about at the beginning of the year the musical chairs taking place, and we have more taking place. Our friends at TEG in Australia and Indonesia and Singapore, Vietnam and India, their coverage is well known. We've talked about the Time Zone and the Kingpin brands as well as their other brands. They have been going through restructuring. We've talked about their updating of the Time Zone and the zone bowling facilities and the increased rollout. And now they've brought in a very safe pair of hands as their new managing director of the group. And the group also includes some other operations within the periphery. But this is quite a considerable C-suite injection and kinds of points towards what our friends at TEG are planning to do going forwards.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, he came just recently out of a year-long sabbatical before coming from a public company and the food company. So he has leadership and he has the public company experience, C-suite leadership experience, but he doesn't have any entertainment and amusement experience. And so it will be interesting, and hopefully, for a while he's going to have to rely on those around him to help him fill in those gaps. But he does have a great CEO and C-suite pedigree. Hopefully he can quickly gain the pedigree in amusement and entertainment.
And he won't have a lot of time to learn. So this is going to be hitting the road running. Another new entrant, not new entrant, new holder of position, but a name from the Holoviz company. Stuart is now taking on the global director of business development. Holoviz, of course, is behind the 360 golf properties, as well as many media-based entertainment installations for Merlin and other companies out there. They have a very strong and ambitious rollout plan for competitive socializing projects, for media-based attractions, as well as some other surprises that are in the works. And we're going to be keeping a very close eye on exactly what happens next with Holoviz as it positions itself as a major player in the international entertainment scene.
Interesting.
Moving on, and on the consumer side of the VR roller coaster, and we have the next shoe drop of the multitude of shoes that are dropping. It is surprising, that Meta investment money dries up and then suddenly the whole structure seems to show that it's got a little bit of rot in the beams. Rec Room, one of the oldest of the mass multiplayer VR experiences, hailed as a success in the market, given an evaluation by some of $3.5 billion, suddenly ends March by saying, you know what, guys, we're closing down. and using the excuse we never quite figured out how to make rec rooms a sustainable, profitable business isn't the type of phraseology. It's kind of so long and thanks for all the fish. You can't have it both ways. You can't claim that this was a valuable and super and amazing infrastructure and the technology was compelling and pulling people in, and then say, oops, no, it's not making any money, we're closing it down. For all of the millions, over 150 million users or players of Rec Room, this is a slap in the face, and this will add to the loss of traction of their headsets. You know, if they can't play Rec Room and they're not into Gorilla Tag, then that headset is going to be gathering dust in the cupboard. And from an investor's point of view, you can't believe anything that anyone in the consumer VR sector has said over the last 10 years, because as soon as the cash cow, the gravy train, as Meta called it, hit the buffers, was taken away, then suddenly all of the awnings come down.
Wow. Yeah, this is a big hit. This is a big hit to the VR, consumer VR industry. Absolutely. This is not a good sign of, I'd be worried if, maybe not worried if I'm another VR company, like a Gorilla Tag that's doing well, a VR game studio, but
Are they?
I don't know, right? But they're, it's because we don't know. Like we presumably, we heard Rec Room is a $3.5 billion valuation at one point, and so you would assume that they're either profitable or at least somewhat sustainable, or able to go and raise additional capital. So this is a really interesting, fast moving, 10-year run from a 2016 founding to a 2026 collapse.
And another example of a 10-year run that has come to an end from our point of view is our friends at Control V. Now, Control V at their height had about 11 VR arcade facilities dotted around Canada. Then recently, after COVID, they shrunk down to about 6 facilities, then 4. They opened a North American facility, but in a statement that was made at near the end of March, that's it. Thank you very much. It's been very enjoyable 10 years. We've, established many things regarding VR arcade, but boom, we're closing down everything. Now, a little bit more information was given to me by the team that not all of the facilities are closing down, that one of them, the one in North America, in the USA, will be staying open, but now not part of the Control V franchise. And that the guys are going to go off to do other things. They hadn't actually alluded if they were going to stay in the location-based entertainment market. But I take from this, not that it was a failure, but it was a failure to adapt to the changing market. Control V really did underline what it was needed to make a profitable VR arcade facility using the Gen 1 technology, the older HTC Vives with that notorious cable from the ceiling and the controllers, and a wide selection of PC VR games, but needed specialist capabilities to run them. And they successfully ran that, and other people emulated what Control V had done. It was interesting that the short-lived failure that was IMAX VR facilities borrowed heavily from what they thought they had taken away from the Control V concept, only to find that they may have taken the baby, but they forgot the bathwater. Now we see that Control V, in its inability to embrace arena scale VR and the free roaming aspects, not improving its brand, its brand identity, its positioning in a crowded market never changed. The team behind it were adamant that they put more energies into the operational tools than into the perceived market positioning, and they have paid the price. They didn't grow after COVID exponentially, which they needed to have done, and where the sandbox VRs of this generation have zoomed off into the 80s and 90s facilities, they've been left behind. This is a salient tale, which is if you're generation 1 focused with your VR, then you're bound to fail. unless you're going to embrace the next generation. It's called a revolution because that wheel keeps on turning and you can't stay still.
100%. If you are trying to be on the bleeding edge of an attraction
Sharpen the knife.
technology, then you must absolutely continue to be on that bleeding edge, because the edge will continue to move forward. And if you're not staying up to date, up to speed, and evolving aggressively and quickly, then you will fall behind and you will end up having to close your doors.
It will be interesting with the next generation of XR technology installation that we're seeing, and we are seeing it, how many of those people will learn lessons from our friends at IMAX VR, let alone Control V. And as it's, as the Chinese curse always says, if you forget your history, you'll be constantly cursed to repeat it. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're not going to see in maybe another 10 years the next coming of the Grim Reaper to really sort out this market. But again, this is the ending of a generation, and we're now moving to the next generation of XR support. And our friends at Sandbox have seen the writing in the sand, as it were, and they have decided to enter a very crowded part of the next generation. So from the VR arcade environment, tethered, to the free roaming VR experience, now to the interactive VR experience, still with 4 players. But Sandbox has now developed their first, what I would call virtual adventure style product, which isn't shooting zombies or trying to complete Squid Game puzzles, but it is navigating through a world of wonder, supported by the Natural History Museum and the dulcet tones of an English academic as you look at large dinosaurs walking past you. And this is a proven model because along with Sandbox doing it, our friends at Eclipso have done it, and our friends at Dive Lab have done it.
Yeah. I mean, and this is obviously a dramatized version of what your experience
with
would
no
be.
headsets.
Yeah, with no headsets. This always drives me crazy, when they're there we go. See, so they put the headsets on and they were inside this this experience. So this is the age of the dinosaurs. And look, this is great that they have created something that is more edutainment, or at least experiential, than pure shoot 'em up type of experiences that they've had prior to this.
It's interesting that all of the companies that have developed this kind of stuff always use in their marketing videos the "they ain't wearing headsets" kind of filmography. We also have
wonder
to remember,
why, because people don't like wearing headsets.
Who would have thunk it? The thing we need to be mindful of is that this is a generational point. Back in 2018, when the ambition of Dreamscape Immersion received all that lovely money from Steven Spielberg to roll out their ambitions of 30, 40, 50 facilities dotted around the world using backpack PCs and free roaming, they had their very famous Alien Zoo experience, which was near enough an immersive dinosaur kind of narrative. So history is repeating itself, but it's very important to understand that for Sandbox, this is a considerable pivot to try and stay relevant with a changing market. And that changing market is the immersive adventure experience. We are being inundated. If it isn't the Felix and Paul experience at Area 15 that we were talking about recently, it is now the Black Mirror experience that Eunice has developed, which is, funny enough, opening at a venue not a million miles away from where Felix and Paul's space VR experience first opened many years ago. But in Montreal, the Infinity Experience facility will have the Black Mirror experience. It's a walkthrough, which includes virtual reality, free roaming components to the experience. Very interesting. Another Netflix out-of-home entertainment experience dotting up. We've talked about our friends at Dave and Buster's having Netflix experiences in their facility. We now have the standalone VR Netflix experience. How long before Black Mirror experience turns up in a Netflix house?
What I find interesting about this as well, at least based on their description on their website, is that this is a mix of both VR and physical experiences. So it will not be just pure VR. It will have a mix. It is a 60-minute experience that you go through.
Art,
And they call it,
like spaces, like all of them.
Yep, exactly. And so they call it an immersive journey. And you have this little AI companion who's that little guy in the middle of that train right there that's guiding you through everything.
The standard narrative storytelling, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a physical character while you're in the non-VR component, and then it transitions. But again, we'll have to try it out for ourselves. The Black Mirror experience will be leading off of its recognition factor from its Netflix TV series, so it'll be fascinating to see how well it does in the Montreal opening, and then it starts its traversing as a pop-up experience. Very much how the Felix and Paul Spaces experience started, and we've seen what's happened with their progression towards Interstellar Arc. And then we have the Charlie Chocolate Factory moment. Hey, let's take one of the most popular toy brands known to man and get Mattel to support our Barbie Dream Fest. And then we take over a warehouse and clear concrete floors and a couple of props. And then we start selling high-level tickets for hundreds of dollars, and we give away Barbie-themed hand sanitizers as the gift at the end. This is a plane crash yet again. This time, though, hiding behind fandom. So rather than just selling itself as a entertainment attraction for Christmas or for the holidays or being located, this was sold to the hardcore Barbie fans. And those are the type of people I wouldn't want to piss off. So I look forward to seeing what the real repercussions of this train wreck are going to be. The media's already jumped upon it. I noticed that the Mattel branding was still at the bottom of their website. So Mattel hasn't closed them down yet for this event. I'm sure they got paid already, and maybe that's where all the money went rather than in the attractions.
I don't understand how we keep doing this. And I don't mean we, I mean, okay, fair, money, but I mean, this is
no policing from the trade.
Yeah, I mean, this is unbelievable. Looking at some of the pictures here, so if you have a chance to do that, if you want to go and just Google Barbie Dream Fest and look at some of the pictures, it will just be cringeworthy experience that this was. It was not an experience. It was basically a large open warehouse with some things set up, and it's just appalling.
And it's a knock, no matter what certain bodies may say, oh, it's not us, these people will always scam and all of that. We are associated by just by it being an entertainment experience, by using the nomenclature. I would actually also argue that a smart trade association would have a word with Mattel, and they would both police this situation together to show a united front and try and close the door on future attempts at this. What's it going to take? Is it going to take injury of guests at a badly maintained experience? Is it going to take violence from angry attendees before the industry realizes that we can't keep on allowing the Charlie Chocolate Factory situation to keep on happening? And we are big enough, ugly enough, and rich enough as a trade association to manage this. Personal opinion, I'll get off my high horse now. There is the Taurus of pain for all of you that are trying to keep up with where these entertainment offerings fit. I left the Barbie experience on there, but it should have actually just fallen off the gallery end of the Taurus. What a mess.
Yeah, absolutely brutal. All right. Well, coming up after the break, we'll have the trends in technology. Power up your game floor with Arcades by Alan One. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Alan One has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-one.com to learn more. That's allen-one.com.
Thank you. And moving into the tech. And as we said at the beginning, that the illuminated interactive floor game experience would be going through transitions and reinterpretations and technological advancements. We have seen our friends at Moment Factory really move forward with their concept now under the Playground branding, and our friends at Lane 7 have snapped up the first of these units to put in their locations. So they have done what I said right at the beginning and dedicated these interactive floors as major attractions alongside their bowling, alongside their AR darts, alongside their amusement as their own standalone audience multiplayer game experiences. And I look forward to seeing how many other venues look towards this approach. The illuminated floor systems, the early generations, use the big tiles. They're robust, but they don't have the same digital fidelity, the phygital element that I think you will need to have to stay up to date with this type of technology. And remember, this isn't just being aimed at a children's market like most of the interactive floor systems. This is a much more kidult friendly game experience.
I really enjoy this Moment Factory's Playground experience. I've had a chance to play it, to test it out, and they've done a phenomenal job. Their early iterations were with projection mapped, and they tracked in real time. These later iterations are an actual LED floor, which are much brighter and obviously much more responsive from a tracking standpoint. That being said, I am kind of shocked that they would do exclusivity with Lane 7. Obviously, Lane 7 has some expansion opportunities. There has to be some sort of time period here, like we see with exclusivity in Dave & Buster's. Exactly. And then there also has to be potentially some regionality to that exclusivity as well, since Lane 7 is primarily a UK-based organization.
For the sake of transparency, I had some involvement with Moment Factory when they first looked at taking their museum concept, interactive floor system, and move it into the location-based entertainment sector. And we did suggest very heavily that to establish the product, they should go for the Dave & Buster's model, a limited time exclusivity with a leading company. I know that there are other companies now very interested to also share in that. And we know that there's a very small window for this because everybody is now looking at LED floor and wall systems as being the next big impetus in the XR environment, the phygital environment. Technology from Japan that will have some impact on us in the Western market. There was a clear 10 years between my first reporting of QR codes in the Stinger report and then the appearance of QR codes as a marketing tool in the location-based Western market. And I'm going to ram that flag into the ground again and say that the launch of Cloud Play by DGFT looks like it could be a very unique platform for the next generation of smartphone interaction with gaming systems, both on pay and interaction with the facility and their systems. It is it really is a digital transformation tool, right up Gender's bullywick, I'm sure, and it is supported by AI smart calculations. So, the machine learning will be able to track patterns of users and also could be implemented to what we were talking about in a previous sound off, actually having changeable pricing models based upon activities. This is a tool or an app that is now being launched and established in Japan. Count to 5, and let's see how long it is before our contactless payment providers in the industry will turn towards incorporating this level of fidelity.
Yeah, I think the QR code payment model as well really lends to the real-time pricing updates, especially if you can have it optimized by AI. You don't have to push those pricing updates directly to the reader necessarily. You can have that just updated through software available after you scan a static QR code.
And it can be used for marketing, and you can pay for play facility where maybe you say, yes, I don't mind receiving adverts every time I swipe to play or gather information, and then suddenly you're monetizing that. There are lots of options that this kind of approach compared to a passive swipe card can bring to the table. Again, what the Western market's usage of smartphones will be like in 10 years is anyone's guessing. Our friends at Tato have been rolling out now their immersive enclosure system. They have developed the Cube some time ago, around the same time that immersive game box was being conceived and all of the other concepts. Tato developed their Cube system that really is a 4-player floor and wall projection system environment. It is putting you in this heart of the arcade machine. It's been a slow rollout. They've been using it as a centerpiece attraction in certain of their venues. Now they have decided that they're going to drop the Cube 5D immersive attraction into their other venues. So we will see many of their Tato stations now including an immersive entertainment attraction, the next generation away from VR.
Okay.
Moving on, and again in Japan, have celebrations for Dragon Quest's anniversary. Who can believe it's 40 years? Anyway, Dragon Quest, extremely popular MMO in the Japanese market, being turned into multiple games, and now it's been turned into its own VR experience. That is being run as part of the location museum, as well as entertainment component. Jump on a motion seat, put on Meta Quest helmets, be dropped into a unique virtual environment based upon Dragon's Quest. Rinse and repeat. It seems a simple approach. I raise an eyebrow that they're using Meta Quest as their head mount of choice, though I know that Meta Japan is much more friendlier to location-based entertainment deployment of their technology than some of the other divisions. But again, would this be something that would work in the Western market? I think so.
Maybe. I mean, I think it depends on we talk about VR sims, VR rides, etc. I think for those, IP does matter, and as long as this type of IP is relevant here for the North American market, then yeah, I think it could work. I just don't know if this particular IP is relevant here.
Yes, again, I'd need to do some research. I know how popular in the Asian market Dragon Quest was, but again, I would need to see the numbers of what it has achieved. But just as a simple bit of spitballing and free consultancy, Relix takes this content, reskins one of their systems, drops it into an entertainment facility, preferably next door to a GameStop if there's still one open, and sees if it does traction. If it does traction, bish, bash, bosh.
Yep.
Doesn't take a lot. Changing the availability of the hardware to suit the market, going back to what we were saying regarding our friends at Control V. Here is an example of the continuation of the evolution of what you're offering the operators to make it. So the same way that an operator will look at a interactive illuminated gaming floor system, that same space can either be a interactive floor or it could be a pop-up VR arena, meaning that operators that were sitting on the fence about actually having a high-level VR system in their facility, of having a VR arena, that didn't have the Heath Robinson skills to get the current technology to work, they can now go to our friends at Hero Zone and buy Hero Zone Go. 6 headsets, can come optionally with the vests, pop-up flooring and enclosure, and turn of a key in a couple of hours, you've got a VR arena system generating the same kind of revenue that I would assume you could generate from the interactive floor system. No, a little higher, obviously, because you're going to charge a lot more for a VR experience than you are for an interactive floor experience. But, and our friends at Dive Labs during the AEI show also launched their Dive Lab Go system, which is a portable system which allows you to pop up this kind of approach. We've been here before. Pop-up VR systems under the tethered VR generation 1s were very popular, and they made some money, and they forced operators to then consider dedicating space to VR experiences. And I get the feeling that we're at that history repeating itself. I'm looking forward to seeing how the market will consolidate, where back in the generation 1 days, every man and his dog was trying to sell you a VR enclosure setup. Now we're going to be down to 2 or 3 core manufacturers of this type of technology, which will allow us a little bit more traction and much more focus on content rather than on technology.
Yeah, I do appreciate the standardization Hero Zone is trying to do here, as well as the portability to some extent. So if you've got a small space, you want to just test out what it would be like to have an arena style small format VR platform, then you've got this Hero Zone Arena Go option.
This will appeal to the inflatable guys. This will appeal to the party room guys. This will appeal to the pop-up party and events guys. You know, this is much more than just an amusement system. It also sits in other aspects of the attraction and entertainment sector. And I wouldn't be surprised if this starts another acceleration, but rather than being VR, the next acceleration is going to be much more XR, because if you're using head-mounted displays for VR, then what's to stop you using spectacles and having this as a universe kind of system? And then that IP is king, and our friends at Zero Latency, what was it, last year they were pushing the Warhammer 40K IP, and the year before that they were pushing the Far Cry Ubisoft IP. Well, they're now pushing the Cyberpunk 2077 IP. Very successful video game, lots of brand recognition. When I ran the breaking news of this development, that Zero Latency would be creating a cyberpunk game experience, or have, and they will be launching it soon. This was trending very highly on our social media. So there is that interest out there from the playing audience, especially the playing audience in the consumer VR sector, who recently lost access to their VR version of Cyberpunk, and so were a little bit salty about the loss, but also could attest that the Cyberpunk universe is a good one to play in VR. I was just going to say, one of the phrases I liked was Tim, the head of Zero Latency, was using the phrase human scale regarding playing this video game on the Zero Latency immersive virtual reality arena system, compared to how some people like to call this warehouse scale. And I've never been a fan of warehouse scale, so let's hope human scale catches on. Sorry, Brandon.
No, I mean, I think that whether or not it's VR or a shooting game, a shooting gallery, or a racer, apparently Cyberpunk is now
everywhere.
the new IP, and maybe we're going to see an Angry Birds competitor. There we go. Exactly.
It is the transmedia bullywig that I have stuck myself on top of, and it is just being writ large. All of those that raised an eyebrow and went, Kevin's just going off on one, I'm sure they have deleted those comments from the post. The issue is we have seen Cyberpunk, a video game, 300 million downloaded content, packaged software transfer from the PC gaming market and the console gaming market to as Brandon alluded to, LAI, putting it into a shooter. Our friends at Unis just now completing their motorbike racer. And now we have an arena VR experience. Angry Birds. I'll be here a while if I listed all of the applications of Angry Birds into the amusement and attractions section. We've touched upon already Stranger Things, but we could really just put up the Netflix badge there and just say anything that Netflix spits out that gets traction gets turned into John Wick's. Lionsgate is no stranger to location-based entertainment, and I wouldn't be surprised if their experienced team isn't working on a much greater position. And of course, our friends at Sony Pictures with Jumanji now getting 2 bites of the cherry because our friends at Zero Latency are working on a arena VR experience based on the film property, as well as our friends at Triotech. This is where we're going, and we're only a matter of weeks away, months away from Licensing Expo in Las Vegas, where we will expect to see the next tranche. I was led to believe by a colleague I was speaking to who's working on the John Wick's package, that the actual deal for the John Wick's amusement system was developed through their attendance of Licensing Expo a few years ago. And I wouldn't be surprised if we will see other properties migrate into our sector from both sides due to that. But also remember, we have in a couple of weeks' time CinemaCon coming up, and a lot of these IP are from the cinema and streaming sector. Moving on, and we have also in a couple of months' time the Augmented World Expo. We have the LBE XR zone, which is beginning to fill up nicely. And we're just getting down now to the panel sessions that we're going to be covering at the event. We're also in discussions, maybe we'll have some social events linked to the location-based entertainment side of the XR cherry. We are becoming much more relevant in the faces of the VR and the XR industry. The consumer side seems to be going through a little bit of a baptism of fire, and now the investors are looking more towards the opportunities of the XR LBE positioning, and we hope to reflect that at the event. Anyway, I've bored you long enough. Please hit me up on LinkedIn if you have any information or corrections you want to pass on. We have a load of Stinger reports out, including our coverage of the AEI show and some other major events that took place. And my email details are there if you need direct contact.
Perfect. All right, Kevin. Well, another great sound off. And for those of you listening, stay tuned for sound off number 117 in just 1 week. April 14th. We will see you all then.
Have a good one.